The space vessel Horizon drifted quietly through the darkness of space. Inside, Lieutenant Ryan Cole checked his uniform for the 5th time. His hand shook slightly as he smoothed down the front of his jacket. "First contact jitters?" asked Captain Susan Morris with a small smile. Ryan nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Not every day we meet aliens for the first time." The ship had been traveling for 3 weeks since the first signal came from the Zephyrian craft. The United Nations Space Command had chosen the Horizon for this historic mission. Ryan, with his background in both combat and diplomacy, was a natural choice for the team. "They're ready for us," said Communications Officer Paul Green from his station. "Docking in 5 minutes." Ryan took a deep breath. At 35, he had seen much in his career. He had fought in the water wars 10 years ago before moving to diplomatic service. His brown hair was cut short, and a scar ran along his jaw from an old battle. His blue eyes were sharp and observant. The Horizon shuddered as it connected with the much larger Zephyrian ship. Ryan stood with 4 other team members waiting for the airlock to open. "Remember," said Dr. Kate Wilson, the team's xenobiologist, "no sudden movements. From what we can tell from their messages, they're formal and traditional." The airlock hissed and slowly opened. Ryan's eyes widened at the sight. The Zephyrian delegation stood waiting in a perfect line. They were tall, about 7 feet, with slim bodies that looked almost human except for their skin. It shimmered with colors that shifted like oil on water. Their fingers, only 4 on each hand, were long and graceful. Most striking were the patterns of light that pulsed beneath their skin, creating beautiful designs that changed constantly. Ryan stepped forward as instructed. The lead Zephyrian, dressed in flowing robes of silver, also moved forward. "I am Envoy Talon," the alien said in perfect English, their voice musical and light. "Welcome to the vessel of Her Majesty, Queen Alara of Zephyr." Ryan bowed slightly. "I am Lieutenant Ryan Cole of Earth. We are honored by your welcome." The meeting went smoothly at first. The humans were led to a large chamber with a round table. The walls were made of a crystal-like material that hummed softly. For an hour, they exchanged basic information. The Zephyrians had been observing Earth for decades before deciding to make contact. Their civilization was thousands of years older than humanity's. Then came the invitation that surprised everyone. "Her Majesty Queen Alara wishes to extend an invitation to your delegation," Talon announced. "You will visit Zephyr, our homeworld, as honored guests." Captain Morris looked stunned. This was moving much faster than expected. "We would need to consult our leadership," she said carefully. "Of course," Talon replied, "but we hope for a swift response. The journey to Zephyr will take 2 of your Earth months." Later, as the human team discussed the invitation in private, opinions were divided. "It could be a trap," said Security Chief Alan Rivera. "We know nothing about them." "Or the greatest opportunity in human history," countered Dr. Wilson. Ryan listened quietly before speaking. "Their technology is clearly superior to ours. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done it already." After much debate and communication with Earth, the decision was made. A smaller team would accept the invitation. Ryan would be part of it. The journey to Zephyr aboard the alien vessel was fascinating. Ryan spent his days learning about Zephyrian culture from Talon. He learned their language was impossible for human vocal cords, but many Zephyrians had studied Earth languages. "Our queen has great interest in humans," Talon told Ryan one day. "She believes our peoples have much to offer each other." Ryan nodded politely. "I'm curious why your people use such traditional methods like monarchy when your technology is so advanced." Talon's skin flashed with patterns that Ryan had learned meant something like amusement. "Technology and tradition are not opposites, Lieutenant Cole. Our queen is not just a political leader. She carries the genetic memory of our ancestors. Her bloodline connects our past and future." When they finally arrived at Zephyr, Ryan gasped at the view from the ship. The planet had vast oceans of deep blue and land masses covered in vegetation in shades of purple and blue. Most striking were the massive crystal formations that jutted from the surface, some reaching miles into the sky. The ship landed near the largest city, a sprawling collection of towers that seemed to grow from the ground rather than being built. Everything shimmered in the light of the planet's twin moons. "Welcome to Zephyr," Talon said proudly. The first week on the alien world was overwhelming. Ryan and the human team were given quarters in a building near the Royal Palace. They attended formal meetings, cultural exchanges, and scientific demonstrations. Problems began during a formal dinner on the 8th day. The humans were trying their best to follow the complex Zephyrian dining customs, but Ryan noticed some of the court officials showing signs of offense at small mistakes. When Dr. Wilson accidentally used the wrong eating utensil for a ceremonial dish, the room grew tense. Light patterns on the Zephyrian skin flashed in patterns Ryan recognized as anger or disgust. Before anyone could speak, Ryan stood and addressed the gathering in the few phrases of Zephyrian language he had managed to learn. He apologized for their mistakes and asked for patience and teaching rather than judgment. The room fell silent. Then from the head of the table, a soft glow began to spread. All Zephyrians immediately bowed their heads. Ryan turned to see a new figure entering the room. She was taller than the other Zephyrians, her skin shifting through colors more vivid than any he had seen. Her eyes were large and completely silver without pupils. The patterns of light beneath her skin formed complex, beautiful designs that seemed to tell stories. "Queen Alara," whispered Kate beside him. The Queen approached Ryan directly, studying him with those strange silver eyes. Then she spoke, her voice like music. "In many generations, no outsider has shown such respect for our ways while also speaking truth about the challenges of understanding. You are different, Lieutenant Ryan Cole." Ryan bowed deeply. "I only wish for our peoples to find common ground, Your Majesty." The Queen's skin flashed with patterns he couldn't read. "Then perhaps you are the one we have waited for." She turned to Talon. "The human will join my court as liaison. Prepare him." With that, she left the room, leaving Ryan stunned. He had just become the first human assigned to the royal court of an alien queen. Captain Morris squeezed his shoulder. "Looks like you've got a new assignment, Lieutenant." Ryan watched the doorway where the Queen had disappeared. Something told him his life had just changed forever. 2 months passed quickly for Ryan in the royal palace of Zephyr. His quarters were spacious but alien, with walls that seemed to breathe and furniture that adjusted to his body without being touched. Each morning, he woke to the soft glow of the twin moons setting beyond his window. Ryan's days fell into a routine. Mornings were spent studying Zephyrian customs with Talon. Afternoons involved attending court meetings or helping translate messages between Zephyr and Earth. Evenings often meant formal dinners where Ryan carefully navigated the complex social rules of the alien nobility. "You learn quickly for a human," Talon told him one morning as they walked through the palace gardens. The plants around them responded to their presence, turning their purple leaves to follow them. Most visitors would have caused a dozen major insults by now. Ryan smiled. "I had good training in diplomacy, and I find your culture fascinating." The truth was that Ryan had always been good at watching and learning. His years in special forces had taught him to observe tiny details. Now he used those same skills to notice the subtle shifts in skin patterns that revealed Zephyrian emotions. "The Queen asks about your progress daily," Talon said casually. Ryan tried not to show his surprise. Since that first meeting 2 months ago, he had seen Queen Alara only during formal court functions. She always acknowledged him with a nod, but they hadn't spoken directly again. "I'm honored by her interest," Ryan replied carefully. Talon's skin flashed with what Ryan had learned to recognize as amusement. "You should be. The Queen rarely takes interest in individuals, especially outsiders." That afternoon, Ryan was surprised to receive a summons to the Queen's private council chamber. Only the highest officials were normally allowed there. The chamber was smaller than Ryan expected. 7 Zephyrians sat at a crystal table with Queen Alara at its head, her silver eyes fixed on Ryan as he entered. "Lieutenant Cole," she said, "join us." Ryan took the empty seat indicated. He recognized most of the council members, including Talon. One he didn't know sat directly across from him, a Zephyrian with unusually dark skin patterns and cold eyes. "This is Commander Vorex," the Queen said, noticing Ryan's attention. My chief military advisor. Vorex did not acknowledge Ryan. Instead, he addressed the Queen. Your Majesty, I must again express my concern about having an outsider at these sensitive meetings. The Queen's skin flashed patterns that Ryan couldn't read. The human has proven trustworthy, and we need his perspective on the treaty negotiations. Ryan listened carefully as the Council discussed the proposed alliance between Earth and Zephyr. Some members supported full cooperation, including shared technology and cultural exchange. Others, led by Vorex, wanted limited contact. Humans are unpredictable and primitive, Vorex argued. Their history is filled with violence. Ryan kept his face neutral, though he felt anger rising. He waited until the Queen looked to him before speaking. Commander Vorex is right that humans have a troubled history, Ryan said calmly. We have fought many wars, but we have also learned from them. The United Nations Space Command exists because we finally understood that cooperation is stronger than conflict. Vorex's skin darkened. Pretty words from a professional soldier. Enough, the Queen said. Her skin glowed brightly, silencing the room. We will continue this discussion tomorrow. Lieutenant Cole, remain, please. When the others had left, Queen Alara studied Ryan for a long moment. Up close, her skin patterns were even more complex and beautiful than he remembered. You handled Vorex well, she said finally. Many would have responded with anger. Ryan nodded. He's entitled to his concerns. Change is difficult for any society. Yes, she agreed. But Vorex's opposition seems personal. He has become increasingly vocal since your arrival. Over the next few weeks, Ryan was invited to more council meetings. Vorex's hostility grew more obvious, but Ryan maintained his composure. After each meeting, the Queen would often ask Ryan to stay behind for a private conversation. Ryan found himself drawn to her intelligence and the weight of responsibility she carried. Unlike human rulers, Queen Alara truly lived for her people. The genetic memory she carried connected her to every past monarch of Zephyr. Do you miss Earth? She asked him one evening as they stood on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. Ryan considered the question. Sometimes, but I've never felt I belonged anywhere specific. My parents moved often. Then I joined the military. Home became wherever I was stationed. The Queen's skin glowed softly in the darkness. An interesting perspective. Zephyrians are deeply connected to this world. To be separated from it causes physical pain. That explains why so few have visited Earth, Ryan said. She nodded. Only those with special training can endure it. Like Kira. She gestured, and Ryan was startled to notice a figure standing in the shadows. A female Zephyrian stepped forward, her skin pattern subtle and controlled. She wore a fitted uniform unlike the flowing robes of the court. My personal guard, the Queen explained. Kira has been watching you since your arrival. Ryan met Kira's gaze. Her expression was unreadable, but her hand rested near what Ryan guessed was a weapon. She doesn't trust me, Ryan observed. The Queen's skin flashed with amusement. Kira trusts no one when it comes to my safety. It is her purpose. BR. Next day, Ryan noticed something strange. A service drone was moving through a restricted area of the palace. When he approached it, the machine sped away. Ryan followed it to a maintenance tunnel where it disappeared. Ryan reported the incident to Talon, who seemed troubled. Drones. Don't malfunction that way. I will increase security sweeps. More unusual events followed. A communication panel sparked and nearly burned Ryan when he touched it. A transport platform malfunctioned while carrying him between palace levels, dropping suddenly before stabilizing. Coincidences, Talon assured him. The palace systems are ancient, but Ryan's military training made him suspicious. These weren't random accidents. They happened only around him or in areas he frequently visited. One evening, Ryan was walking through the palace gardens when he heard voices from behind a tall plant. He recognized Commander Vorex speaking in low, urgent tones. The ceremony cannot be delayed, Vorex was saying. The Queen will be exposed during the ritual approach. It is the perfect opportunity. Another voice responded too quietly for Ryan to hear. Ryan waited until they left before moving. His mind raced. What ceremony? What opportunity? He needed to learn more before bringing his suspicions to anyone. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He paced his quarters thinking about what he'd overheard. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. When he opened the door, Kira stood there, her expression severe. "The Queen requests your presence," she said flatly. Ryan followed her through darkened corridors to a part of the palace he'd never seen before. They entered a circular room with walls covered in ancient symbols. Queen Alara stood in the center, her skin glowing brightly. "Lieutenant Cole," she said, "I must tell you about the ceremony of ancestors. In 3 days I will journey to the sacred forest of Lumina. It is a pilgrimage every queen makes once in her reign." Ryan listened carefully as she explained the ritual. The queen would approach the ancient temple alone, following traditions thousands of years old. "Why tell me this?" Ryan asked. Her silver eyes seemed to look through him. "Because I sense danger coming. And strangely, I believe you may be important to what happens next." Ryan thought about Vorex's words in the garden. He took a deep breath and told the queen what he had overheard. Her skin patterns remained calm, but her eyes hardened. "Accusations against a commander require proof. Vorex has served the court for decades." "I understand," Ryan said, "but please, increase your security for the ceremony." The queen touched his hand lightly. Her skin felt warm against his. "I will consider your warning. Now you should rest." As Kira led Ryan back to his quarters, he noticed her watching him with new interest. "You truly believe the queen is in danger," she said. It wasn't a question. Ryan nodded. "I do." Kira was silent for a moment. "Then perhaps we should speak further, human. Tomorrow." Ryan watched her walk away, feeling that something important had just shifted. He would need allies if he was going to protect the queen from whatever Vorex was planning. The morning of the ceremony arrived with the strange purple light of Zephyr's sun streaming through Ryan's window. He had slept poorly, his mind filled with worry about what might happen. Kira had met with him the previous day, as promised. At EI first she had been cold and suspicious, but as Ryan shared more details about the strange incidents and Vorex's conversation, her attitude changed. "I have noticed Vorex meeting with officers not under his command," she had admitted. "But the Queen values evidence over suspicion." They had agreed to stay alert during the ceremony. Kira would stay close to the Queen while Ryan would watch for anything unusual among the attendees. Now Ryan dressed in the formal outfit provided for him, a suit of shimmering fabric that adapted to his human form. He checked the small communication device Kira had given him, making sure it was hidden but accessible. A knock at his door announced Talon's arrival. "It is time, Lieutenant Cole. The procession will begin soon." They traveled by hovering transport to the edge of the sacred forest of Lumina. Ryan had never seen this part of Zephyr before. The forest was unlike anything on Earth, massive trees with trunks of deep blue and leaves that seemed to sing in the breeze. The ground was covered in moss that glowed softly with each step. Hundreds of Zephyrians had gathered along the path that led into the forest. They bowed as the royal procession assembled. Ryan spotted Queen Alara at the center, dressed in ceremonial robes that amplified the light patterns of her skin. She looked both beautiful and otherworldly. Ryan took his position near the back of the procession as agreed with Kira. From here, he could watch the crowd without being obvious. He scanned the gathering, looking for Vorex or anyone acting suspiciously. The commander was there, standing with other high officials. His face showed only solemn respect, but Ryan didn't trust it. He continued scanning until he noticed something odd. Several Zephyrians in guard uniforms were positioned along the forest path, but their uniforms didn't quite match the others. Ryan used his communication device to alert Kira. "Possible imposters along the path. Guard uniforms look wrong." Her voice came back quietly. "Noted. Stay alert." The ceremony began with musicians playing instruments that created sounds Ryan had never heard before, like water flowing upward, or wind moving backward. The Queen stepped forward and began walking toward the forest entrance. According to tradition, she would soon separate from the main group and approach the temple alone. Ryan moved carefully through the crowd, trying to get closer to the path. He kept his eyes on the suspicious guards. One of them turned slightly, and Ryan saw something hidden beneath his uniform, a weapon. Ryan immediately used his device again. Armed guards on the path, this is happening now. Before Kira could respond, the ceremony reached the critical moment. Queen Alara moved ahead of her official escorts, beginning the sacred solo approach to the temple. The crowd fell silent. Ryan saw the false guards exchange glances. They were waiting for this moment when the queen would be most exposed. He pushed forward through the crowd, ignoring the angry looks from Zephyrians as he broke protocol. He had to get closer. One of the false guards reached under his uniform. Ryan saw the glint of something crystalline, a weapon he had seen in briefings but never in person. Zephyrians used specially crafted arrows made from living crystal that could penetrate most protective armor. Weapons, Ryan shouted, abandoning all pretense of following protocol. Protect the queen, chaos erupted as more false guards revealed themselves. They raised weapons, bows strung with energy rather than physical strings. The crystalline arrows began to glow with deadly power. Kira and the loyal guards moved to protect the queen, but they were too far away. The first volley of arrows launched through the air aimed directly at Queen Alara. Ryan didn't think. He acted on pure instinct, throwing himself forward. His years of combat training took over as he sprinted faster than he ever had before. Time seemed to slow as he calculated his path, pushing past the last few Zephyrians between him and the queen. He reached her just as the arrows did. Without hesitation, Ryan placed himself directly in front of Queen Alara, spreading his arms to make himself as large a shield as possible. The first arrow struck his shoulder with burning pain. The second hit his lower back. The third and fourth pierced his left leg and right arm. Ryan gritted his teeth against the agony as 3 more arrows found their marks in his chest, stomach, and side. The crystalline projectiles didn't just pierce his body. They burned with energy that spread through his flesh like liquid fire. Yet Ryan remained standing, focusing only on keeping his body between the queen and her attackers. Behind him, he heard Kira shouting orders. Loyal guards were engaging the assassins. The crowd was screaming and running. Ryan looked down at his body. 7 crystal arrows protruded from him, their glowing tips visible through his back where they had passed partway through his body. Blood soaked the ceremonial clothing he wore. He turned his head slightly to see Queen Alara staring at him with her silver eyes wide in shock. Her skin patterns had frozen in what Ryan recognized as the Zephyrian expression of disbelief. "Are you hurt?" Ryan managed to ask through the pain. The queen shook her head. "You took them all," she whispered. Her voice sounded different, emotional in a way he had never heard from a Zephyrian before. Ryan tried to smile, but the energy from the arrows was spreading through his system. His vision began to blur. "Good," he said simply. Then his legs gave way, and he collapsed to the glowing moss below. As consciousness faded, Ryan was aware of being surrounded by Zephyrians. Kira was barking orders. The queen was kneeling beside him, her hands moving over his wounds. The arrows in his body continued to pulse with energy that seemed to be transferring into his flesh. "Hold on, human," Kira's voice seemed to come from far away. "The medics are coming." "The arrows," the queen was saying. "They're bonding with him. It's not possible." Ryan wanted to ask what she meant, but darkness was closing in. The last thing he saw was Queen Alara's face above him, her silver eyes filled with concern and her skin glowing with patterns he had never seen before. "Brave human." Her voice followed him into the darkness. "What have you done?" Then Ryan felt nothing at all as his consciousness slipped away completely. His last thought was that whatever happened now, he had done his duty. He had protected the queen. Darkness surrounded Ryan. He floated in it, feeling neither pain nor peace. Time had no meaning in this place. Sometimes he thought he heard voices, distant and unclear. Sometimes he felt a warm presence beside him, a gentle touch on his hand. But mostly there was just the endless dark. Then slowly the darkness began to change. It gained texture. Patterns of light moved through it like the bioluminescent displays on Zephyrian's skin. The patterns grew stronger, more complex. They seemed to be telling him something if only he could understand. Ryan became aware of his body again, and with that awareness came pain. It wasn't the sharp, burning agony of the arrows, but a deep ache that filled every part of him. He tried to move but couldn't. A voice broke through. Closer now. His brain patterns are changing. I think he's waking up. Another voice responded. Alert the Queen immediately. Ryan struggled to open his eyes. It took tremendous effort, as if his eyelids were made of lead. Finally, a crack of light appeared, then more. His vision was blurry, but he could make out shapes moving around him. He was in a large circular room with walls that glowed softly. He lay on a bed of some kind, surrounded by equipment that hummed quietly. Zephyrian medical staff moved around the room, their skin patterns showing a mix of concern and excitement. Ryan tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. A Zephyrian noticed he was awake and quickly brought a cup with a straw to his lips. The liquid was cool and sweet, instantly soothing his throat. Where? Ryan managed to say. The Royal Healing Chambers, the Zephyrian explained. You have been here for 28 Earth days. Ryan's mind struggled to process this. Almost a month had passed since the ceremony. He tried to sit up but found he was too weak. Please remain still, the healer said. Your body has undergone significant changes. Before Ryan could ask what that meant, the doors to the chamber opened. Queen Alara entered, followed by Kira and several other officials. The medical staff bowed deeply and moved back from the bed. The Queen approached Ryan, her silver eyes studying him intently. Her skin glowed with patterns he had never seen before. Lieutenant Ryan Cole, she said softly, you have returned to us. Ryan tried to bow his head, but could barely move. Your Majesty, you're safe. She nodded. Thanks to you. She turned to the staff. Leave us, all except Healer Norin. When the room had cleared, the Queen sat on a chair beside Ryan's bed. Kira stood protectively nearby, but her expression toward Ryan had completely changed. Where once there had been suspicion, now there was respect. How do you feel? The Queen asked. Ryan did a mental inventory of his body. Weak, sore, but alive, which is more than I expected. Your survival was uncertain, the Queen admitted. The crystal arrows were designed to kill Zephyrians. We had no idea what they would do to human physiology. Ryan suddenly remembered the arrows piercing his body. He looked down at himself, expecting to see bandages and wounds. Instead, his bare chest was covered with faint glowing patterns, similar to Zephyrian bioluminescence but more subtle. What happened to me? He asked, his voice shaking slightly. The Queen exchanged a glance with the healer, who stepped forward. The crystal arrows contain living energy from Zephyr itself, Healer Norin explained. When they strike a Zephyrian, that energy is fatal because it overwhelms our natural energy patterns. But you, being human, had no such patterns to disrupt. Instead, the Queen continued, the energy had nowhere to go. It merged with your cellular structure. It changed you. Ryan stared at the glowing patterns on his skin. They followed the paths where the arrows had struck him. 7 distinct patterns that pulsed faintly with his heartbeat. Am I still human? He asked quietly. The Queen's skin flashed with what Ryan now recognized as sympathy. Yes, but you are also something new, something we have never seen before. Healer Norin brought over a scanning device and showed Ryan a display of his body. The energy has created a secondary system within you, similar to our bioluminescent networks. It will not harm you, but it has permanently altered your physiology. Ryan took a deep breath, trying to process this information. And the assassins? Commander Vorax? Kira stepped forward. Captured all of them. Vorax confessed after seeing what you did. He believed an alliance with humans would weaken Zephyr. He never expected a human would sacrifice himself for our queen. Ryan nodded, relieved that the danger had passed. How long until I can get up? You have been healing remarkably fast, Healer Norin said. Perhaps another week before you can walk? Your human medical team has been consulted, but this is beyond their experience as well. The queen rose from her chair. Rest now. We will speak more when you are stronger. As they turned to leave, Ryan called out, Your Majesty? Thank you for saving my life. She looked back at him, her skin glowing softly. You saved mine first, Lieutenant Cole. That debt will never be forgotten. Over the next week, Ryan grew stronger. The glowing patterns on his skin became more pronounced when his emotions were strong, just like with Zephyrians. He learned to walk again, though his movements were stiff and painful at first. The Queen visited him daily. Sometimes they spoke of official matters. The alliance between Earth and Zephyr was moving forward rapidly now. Other times they simply talked, learning more about each other's worlds and customs. During one such visit, Ryan noticed the Queen seemed troubled. Her skin pattern showed concern that she was trying to hide. Something's wrong, Ryan said. It wasn't a question. The Queen hesitated, then nodded. News has spread about what happened, about what you did. It has awakened something in our people. What do you mean? There is an ancient prophecy, she explained. It speaks of a time when a stranger would shed blood for the monarch, bearing the living light of Zephyr within them. This stranger would bridge two worlds and bring about the stellar union. Ryan felt uncomfortable. I'm not part of any prophecy, I just did what anyone would do. The Queen's skin flashed with amusement. No, Ryan Cole. What you did was extraordinary by any standard, and now my people believe you are the one from the prophecy. What does that mean for me? Ryan asked cautiously. It means your role here has changed. You are no longer just a liaison. You have become a symbol to my people. She paused. And to me as well. Ryan noticed her skin patterns shifting to colors he hadn't seen before. There was something almost human in her expression. While you were unconscious, I visited you every day, she admitted. I formed a connection with your mind to help guide you back. It is something we can do with our own kind, but never before with a human. Ryan remembered the warm presence he had felt in the darkness. That was you? She nodded. In doing so, I learned much about you. Your memories, your feelings. Her skin glowed brighter. Your heart. Ryan didn't know how to respond. The idea that she had been inside his mind was both unsettling and strangely comforting. Don't worry, she said, seeming to sense his confusion. Your thoughts are your own again, but the connection between us remains, faint but present. She rose to leave. Tomorrow there will be a ceremony to honor what you did. Many will attend. Rest well, Ryan Cole. Your new life on Zephyr truly begins tomorrow. After she left, Ryan stood carefully and moved to the window. Outside, the crystal city glowed in the light of the twin moons. He looked down at the luminescent patterns on his skin, permanent reminders of his choice to step between danger and the Queen. Whatever came next would be unlike anything he had ever imagined. But as he watched the glowing patterns pulse in, rhythm with his heartbeat, Ryan knew he was ready to face it. The Grand Temple of Unity stood at the center of the capital city, its crystal towers reaching toward the purple sky of Zephyr. Today, thousands of Zephyrians gathered around it, their skin patterns showing excitement and wonder. This was to be a historic day, one that would change two worlds forever. Inside a preparation chamber, Ryan adjusted the formal robes he had been given to wear. They were unlike the standard Zephyrian clothing, specially designed to honor both his human heritage and his new connection to Zephyr. The fabric was deep blue like Earth's oceans, but woven with crystal threads that complemented the glowing patterns on his skin. 3 months had passed since the assassination attempt. Ryan had regained his strength, though the scars from the arrows would always remain. The luminescent patterns had become a permanent part of him, glowing more brightly when his emotions were strong, just like a Zephyrian's. Kira entered the chamber and bowed slightly. Over the past months, the Queen's guard had become something close to a friend. "It is time," she said. "Are you ready?" Ryan took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be." He followed Kira through the temple corridors. The walls were covered with ancient writings and symbols. Some of them, Ryan noticed with surprise, seemed to depict a figure that looked remarkably human standing among Zephyrians. "Those were carved thousands of years ago," Kira said, noticing his attention. "The prophecy of the Stellar Union has been part of our history for longer than your civilization has existed." Ryan still felt uncomfortable with the idea that his impulsive act of protection had fulfilled some ancient prediction. "I'm just a soldier who did his duty, Kira." Her skin flashed with what Ryan now recognized as amusement. Perhaps that is exactly what the prophecy required. Not someone seeking to become special, but someone who simply acted from the heart. They reached the central chamber of the temple. It was massive, with a domed ceiling that seemed to capture the light of Zephyr's sun and spread it throughout the room. Hundreds of Zephyrians were already seated in circular rows. At the center stood a platform where Queen Alara waited, her ceremonial robes making her glow like a living star. Ryan's heart beat faster at the sight of her. During his recovery, they had spent many hours together. The mental connection she had formed while he was unconscious had created a bond between them that neither fully understood, but both valued deeply. As Ryan walked toward the platform, the assembled Zephyrians bowed their heads. Their skin patterns shifted to show colors of respect and awe. It still made Ryan uncomfortable, but he had learned to accept it. He climbed the steps to stand beside the Queen. She smiled at him, a gesture she had adopted from humans, as Zephyrians typically expressed emotions through their skin patterns rather than facial expressions. "Today marks a new chapter for both our worlds," she said, her voice carrying through the temple. "For generations we have lived separately in this vast universe. Today we begin the journey of coming together." She turned to face Ryan directly. Lieutenant Ryan Cole stepped between danger and myself without hesitation. He took 7 crystal arrows meant for me. By our oldest laws, such a sacrifice creates a bond that cannot be broken. The Queen raised her hands and the light in the temple seemed to gather around her. The arrows that struck this human did not kill him. Instead, they changed him in ways we never thought possible. Our scientists have studied this phenomenon for 3 months now. What they discovered will change everything we thought we knew about ourselves and humans. A display appeared in the air above them, showing biological images that Ryan recognized as cellular structures, some human, some Zephyrian, and some a blend of both. The energy transfer that occurred has created a path for compatibility between our species, the Queen continued. Not just diplomatic or cultural compatibility, but biological. The barriers we thought were fixed by nature have proven to be crossable. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Ryan felt his own surprise showing in the suddenly brighter glow of his scars. "What does this mean exactly?" he asked quietly. The Queen's skin patterns shifted to show deep emotion. "It means that humans and Zephyrians are not as different as we believed. Your body accepted our energy. It adapted instead of being destroyed by it. This suggests possibilities we never imagined. Shared medical advances, biological technologies that could benefit both our peoples, even the potential for deeper biological integration between our species in the future." She turned back to address the gathering. "Today I formally bestow upon Lieutenant Ryan Cole the title of Shield Bearer. This honor has never been given to an outsider before. The Shield Bearer stands as protector and advisor to the monarch, second only to the Queen in matters of alliance between our worlds." An elderly Zephyrian approached, carrying a crystalline emblem on a cushion. The Queen took it and placed it on Ryan's chest where it seemed to meld with his robes. "I accept this honor," Ryan said, his voice clear and strong, "and I pledge to serve both Earth and Zephyr, to build bridges of understanding between our peoples." The crowd's skin patterns flashed in approval. The ceremony continued with representatives from Earth joining by holographic projection. The formal alliance between humans and Zephyrians was signed, establishing protocols for technology exchange, cultural missions, and joint scientific ventures. Hours later, When the formal ceremonies were complete, Ryan found himself on a balcony, overlooking the Crystal City. The twin moons of Zephyr hung in the sky, casting their gentle light over everything. Queen Alara joined him, her ceremonial robes replaced by simpler clothing. "You seem troubled, shield-bearer," she said. Ryan smiled slightly. "Not troubled, just overwhelmed. 3 months ago, I was just a lieutenant assigned to a diplomatic mission. Now I'm supposedly the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy and responsible for the future of 2 worlds." The Queen's skin glowed softly in the moonlight. "You were never just anything, Ryan Cole. I knew that from our first meeting." She placed her hand near his, not quite touching. "The bond between us, it is deeper than duty or politics. You know this." Ryan nodded. Since waking from his coma, he had been aware of her presence in his mind. Distant but always there, like a soft melody, just at the edge of hearing. "What happens now?" he asked. "We build something new together," she said simply. "Something neither humans nor Zephyrians could create alone. The scars you bear opened a door that we never knew existed." Ryan looked down at his arms, where the luminescent patterns glowed. Once he might have been ashamed of such marks. Now he understood they were symbols of something important: sacrifice, change, and connection. "Then I guess the reward was worth every scar," he said quietly. The Queen's skin patterns shifted to colors Ryan had come to recognize as joy and hope. In a gesture very un-Zephyrian but very human, she took his hand in hers. The light patterns on their skin seemed to flow between them, creating new designs where they touched. "This is just the beginning," she said, looking out at the vast night sky where stars held countless worlds waiting to be discovered. "Together, we will find more rewards than either of our peoples ever dreamed possible." Ryan stood beside her, feeling the connection between them grow stronger. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew with absolute certainty that his impulsive act of protection had led to something extraordinary, not just for him, but for 2 entire worlds. As the twin moons of Zephyr cast their light over them, Ryan Cole, once just a human lieutenant and now the shield-bearer of an alien queen, looked toward the future with hope and wonder. His scars glowed in the night, reminding him that sometimes the greatest rewards come from moments of courage we never planned for.